Early morning in London. The thin fog still clung to the ancient rooftops, and a pale, watery sun was just beginning to slice through the window of the small Greenwich apartment. The air was crisp, carrying the damp, earthy scent of the city's streets, a feeling that was both quiet and deeply nostalgic. The cobblestone roads gleamed under the burgeoning light. A few signature red double-decker buses glided softly by, and hurried silhouettes navigated the pavement below. Emma sat by the window, sipping her piping hot coffee. Her gaze was directed outside, yet her mind was settled deep within, as if she was standing apart from it all, observing the world from a distance that felt both intimate and detached. Her small flat wasn't spacious, but everything was meticulously tidy and cared for. Books were neatly stacked on the shelves, a few cherished family photos hung prominently, and the white ceramic coffee mug sat squarely by the window, all reflecting Emma herself, organized, detail-oriented, but also highly sensitive and easily bruised. She picked up an old book from the table, flipping through a few pages, but her eyes kept drifting back to the street, as if searching for something she hadn't quite named yet. Jack, her boyfriend, walked into the kitchen. He was wearing his familiar brown leather jacket, his hair still slightly messy from navigating the humid streets. His smile was warm, but his voice carried a distinct, unusual hurry. "Did you sleep okay?" Emma gave a slight nod, her smile faint, her eyes lost in the leaves outside the window where the sunlight cast long, shimmering streaks across the hardwood floor. She could feel her heartbeat quickening, a sense of unease, a knot of discomfort tightening in every corner of her chest. The silence between them stretched out. Neither spoke, the only sounds the soft gurgle of the coffee machine and the rustle of the leaves outside in the breeze. But within that silence, both of them sensed the weight of unspoken things. Emma recalled Jack's eyes when he looked at her, sometimes warm and tender, but lately often evasive, glancing away, avoiding something important. And then, the image of the small diary flashed in her mind, a gift from her mother in college, where she'd once recorded every thought, from daily minutiae to her deepest, most guarded secrets. Emma knew that just one small secret within that journal was enough to shatter the foundation of their relationship. She placed her hand on the coffee mug, trying to anchor herself, but a feeling of inexplicable dread still surged within her. Jack poured coffee into a mug, his gaze briefly resting on her before quickly turning away to look out at the street. The air in the apartment felt thick, every sound amplified, the wind whistling through the window crack, the bus gliding on the road, the soft collision of the leaves. Everything seemed to underscore the fact that, today, nothing would be as it was before. Emma felt a quiet but heavy shift drawing near. Her heart pounded, her hand trembled as she placed the mug down. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but an overwhelming restlessness welled up inside, as if a massive wave was approaching, and she didn't know how to swim against it. Jack turned back, taking her hand, but Emma only responded with a faint smile, her eyes clouded with worry. Outside, London remained calm. Commuters rushed, red buses swept past, but inside this small apartment, time seemed to slow down. Every second felt heavy and weighted. Emma knew a new story, a series of unforeseen events, was beginning, and both she and Jack would be pulled into it, inescapable. Every glance, every small gesture hinted at things unrevealed, and she sensed that, this very day, everything would change forever. Emma closed her eyes for a second, trying to breathe slow, but the question echoed in her mind. Does Jack know the secret in the diary? Will he understand, or will he betray her? A shiver ran down her spine, blending with the sound of the wind outside, creating a mix of suspense and fear. She opened her eyes, watching Jack as he busied himself with his coffee, his smile still gentle, but his eyes, she knew, were also hiding something, a normal, seemingly mundane day. But from this very moment, the small Greenwich apartment had become the epicenter of a story packed with secrets, betrayal, and unexpressed, simmering emotions. Emma stared out the window, and deep down, she knew nothing would ever be the same. The morning in Greenwich crawled by, yet inside the small apartment, the air grew tighter with every beat of Emma's heart. She couldn't stop thinking about the journal, that repository of her most private thoughts, unspoken emotions, and the fears she had never dared to share with Jack. Emma sat down at the small dining table and opened the worn diary, flipping through the old pages. Every line of script brought back a flash of private moments, things that seemed trivial then but now held an invisible, heavy weight in her soul. Then, a page near the end made her hands tremble. In her thin handwriting, Emma had chronicled her suspicions, the times Jack had avoided her gaze, and the worries she hadn't dared to ask him about directly. Part of her wanted to hide it all away, but another part desperately yearned to share. needing Jack to understand the landscape of her innermost fears. Jack stepped in, jacket in hand, watching Emma intently. "Been up long?" he asked, his voice soft, but with a noticeable edge of restlessness. Emma looked up at him, feeling a surge of emotions. She wanted to laugh and cry simultaneously. She reached for his hand, seeking an anchor, yet terrified of what would happen if he ever read the diary. The silence settled again, broken only by the soft whistle of the wind through the window and the faint whoosh of a bus outside. Emma decided to break the tension, but after just a few initial words, she stopped herself. The phrase in her mind, "Jack, there's something I need to tell you," felt stuck in her throat. She felt her heart race, a fine sheen of sweat breaking out on her forehead. Jack watched her, his expression a mix of concern and patience. "Emma, are you okay? You've been quiet all morning." Emma swallowed hard, took a deep breath, and slid the journal across the table, placing it right in front of Jack. "Can you read this? It's important to me." Her voice trembled, filled with hope for his understanding, and paralyzing fear. Jack leaned down, his eyes scanning the lines of script. At first, he offered a small, gentle smile, but then his face settled into a deep, somber contemplation. Emma watched him, a mix of anxiety and emptiness spreading through her. Every word, every sentence was a raw encapsulation of her emotions, and Jack for the first time was truly listening to her without interruption, without judgment, just silence and absorption. But then, within that profound silence, a secret Emma hadn't expected began to surface. A small, telling detail, one she had consciously never shared with Jack, now stood starkly exposed on the page. Emma's heart clenched, while Jack continued to read, his eyes widening, his gaze growing tense. The kitchen suddenly felt heavy, as if everything else had retreated, leaving only the two of them and the secrets just laid bare. Jack finally let out a long breath, his voice low and gravelly. "Emma, why did you never tell me this?" The question held no accusation, only a raw bewilderment and disappointment. Emma bowed her head, tears streaming down her cheeks, her voice choked up. "I was afraid of losing you, afraid you wouldn't understand me." She looked up, seeing Jack's eyes. They were pained and gentle, yet undeniably filled with doubt. A soft gust of wind slipped through the window, rustling the leaves outside. The kitchen was so silent that every breath, every rapid heartbeat, became amplified. Emma clearly felt the shift, not just in their relationship, but within herself, from belief and hope to fear and the crushing weight of exposure. She knew everything had moved into a completely new chapter, one where their every emotion would be tested, and the secret from the journal was only just beginning to reveal its full, unforeseeable consequences. The morning dragged on, but the small Greenwich apartment remained heavy, as if time itself was snagged in the agonizing minutes. Emma sat there, her hand shaking slightly on the open journal positioned between them on the table. Jack stood opposite her, his gaze quiet yet filled with a palpable sense of disappointment, a faint but clear flicker of betrayal. The space suddenly became so silent that their strained breathing echoed like a burdensome rhythm, a silent prelude to the storm that had finally arrived. Emma struggled to explain, her voice a fragile thing. "Jack, I didn't mean to keep secrets from you. I was just afraid." But Jack shook his head, his voice low and sharp with frustration. "Afraid? Emma, you were afraid, but you left me completely in the dark. Didn't you think that your silence could make me?" He stopped, drawing a deep breath to rein in his surging emotions. "Feel betrayed?" Emma swallowed back her tears, a squeezing sensation in her chest. She wanted to run to him, beg for his forgiveness, but the words caught in her throat. She could only look at him, silently, her eyes a mix of pleading and deep pain. The small kitchen felt impossibly crowded. Everything around them seemed to dissolve, leaving only the two of them and the empty space separating them, a space where the newly revealed secrets were now a subtle, spreading crack. Jack stepped closer, placing his hand on the table, near the journal. He looked at Emma, his eyes carrying volumes of unanswered questions. "Do you understand that even a small secret in that diary is enough to make me doubt everything? Did you realize that?" Jack's tone was heavy, laced with sorrow. Emma shook her head, tears streaming down. "I didn't know. She gulped, trying to find the words to justify herself, but everything she tried to say sounded hollow, insufficient to mend the fractures that had just appeared in that moment. Jack turned away to look out the window, his gaze fixed on the quiet street, yet seemingly seeing nothing at all. She felt his temporary emotional withdrawal, an invisible wall rising between them. Emma tried to lift her hand to touch his shoulder, but he subtly retreated, maintaining the distance. A wave of emptiness and disappointment washed over her. She suddenly realized that everything, their trust, their affection, their daily routine, was being put to the ultimate test. Emma opened the journal wider, pointing to a passage. "Please, read this so you can understand me." Her voice was shaky, half plea, half terror. Jack leaned in, his eyes scanning the lines of script once more. But this time, the look was deeper, heavy with contemplation. The emotion in his eyes confused and disappointed, yet still holding a faint trace of undeniable affection, both calmed and pierced Emma's heart. In that profound silence, a sudden ring of a cell phone on the counter shattered the tension like a small, sharp knife. Jack picked up the phone, glanced at the caller ID, and then looked back at Emma, his eyes carrying a fresh torrent of unanswered questions. Emma sensed that the world around them was shifting faster than she had realized, and the diary, the source of all their conflict, had only just begun to unleash its consequences. Emma knew this was no longer a normal morning. It marked the first turning point, where secrets, distrust, and unspoken emotions began to directly impact the core of their relationship. Her heart pounded, her hands trembled, but deep down, she still held on to the hope that if they could truly communicate, they could overcome this. But would Jack have the patience? Was their love strong enough to withstand the weight of the secrets Emma had kept for so long? These thoughts, like a powerful undercurrent, flowed silently beneath the surface, pulling them into a complex emotional tangle: anger, disappointment, and a mutual yearning to understand and be understood. Emma sat still, watching Jack, seeing him quiet, his gaze distant, as if weighing everything in the balance. And she knew a conversation rooted in raw truth was about to begin, one where every word, every gesture, carried the full weight of their feelings, determining the path of their future. The small apartment in Greenwich was unnaturally quiet. The familiar sounds of shared life, laughter, whispered intimacies had been replaced by a suffocating silence, as if every breath was leaching the air away. Emma sat motionless on the sofa, her hands still trembling near the open journal, her eyes following Jack. He stood near the window, staring out at the deserted streets. London outside remained serene. Hurried figures moved along the pavement, the red buses still glided slowly by. But inside the room, time seemed to stand still. Every second weighted down. Emma struggled to steady herself, inhaling deeply. Yet the knot of anxiety and fear continued to spread through her body. She vividly recalled every line in the diary, the unspoken fears, the small, stifled conflicts, the hidden aspirations, all now raw and heavy under Jack's gaze. Jack finally turned back, his expression still contemplative, but now etched with a profound, deep-seated pain. He approached the table, his eyes scanning the pages of the journal once more, as if needing to fully internalize every detail, every emotion she had written. His voice was low, slow, yet burdened with finality. "Emma, reading those lines, I feel like everything we've ever had suddenly became so fragile." Emma lowered her head, tears welling up, desperate to explain but finding her words trapped. She whispered, her voice cracking, "I didn't want to hide it. I was just afraid you wouldn't understand." Jack stayed silent for a moment, taking a long, shaky breath, as if trying to swallow all his own emotions. He turned to face the window again, his hands clenching into fists. The silence between them stretched, thick and suffocating. Emma remembered every moment they had shared, the peaceful mornings, the quiet smiles, the seemingly small but immensely warm embraces. Now, all of it was under threat by a secret that was small in words but huge in consequence. She could feel an invisible distance forming, growing wider with every heartbeat, every silent minute. Emma placed her hand fully on the journal, her voice trembling. "Jack, I only want you to know, everything I wrote was real, authentic emotion." But Jack only stood there, quiet, his eyes distant, clearly weighing every possibility. In that moment, the small apartment became the ultimate test of their love, a place where every emotion, every secret, and every ounce of trust was challenged, pushing them into uncharted territory. Outside the window, a thin mist clung to the ancient rooftops, the gentle sunlight filtering through the trees, but inside the room, coldness and disappointment erected an invisible barrier. Emma felt it distinctly. Today was not just a normal morning, it was a watershed moment, where the newly revealed secrets had begun to directly impact their hearts, minds, and feelings. Jack finally turned, his gaze hard, but his voice was carefully controlled. "That phone call just now, it was from the firm. I've been offered the partnership, the one in New York. I told you about it weeks ago." He paused, his gaze fixed on her. "I was going to wait until things felt right, wait until we could talk about it properly, together." He pushed his hands through his hair, his frustration tangible. But now, reading this, I realize I don't know who I'm having that conversation with. The Emma I thought I knew. Maybe she doesn't exist, not fully. He stepped back, putting physical space between them. I need time, Emma. Time to breathe. Time to process all of this. Time to figure out if what we had was based on what's written in here, or based on the truth. That statement hung heavily in the air, making Emma feel as if her entire world had just collapsed. She looked down, tears falling onto the pages, a sense of profound loss spreading through her body. Every breath became a struggle, every movement slow, as if she were weighed down by unresolved emotion. I'm going to take the flight. Today I need space to think. About this, about us. Emma knew everything had changed. Their relationship, their trust, their daily life, all were shattered and under intense scrutiny. She remained seated, her hand on the journal, watching Jack, and the unspoken question echoed in her heart. Was this love strong enough to overcome everything, or would it simply shatter here? The moment stretched, and Emma felt that, today, they had entered a completely new chapter, one where every gesture, every word, every look would determine whether they could move past the devastating secrets, or if they would tear apart the love they had so carefully built. Jack grabbed his worn leather jacket, picked up his small travel bag from beside the door, and with one last, painful look at her, he walked out, leaving the Greenwich apartment and Emmy in profound silence. The small Greenwich apartment was eerily quiet now, the kind of silence that screams louder than any argument. Jack was gone. The crisp morning air, once holding the scent of damp London fog and coffee, now felt thin, replaced by the bitter, metallic temps of loss. Emma was still on the sofa, her arms instinctively clutching the open journal, the catalyst for the catastrophe. She stared at the empty space where Jack had stood, where he had delivered his crushing decision. I'm going to take the flight today. London outside continued its indifferent existence. The hurried footsteps on the pavement, the faint sound of a double-decker bus rounding the corner, all were now just background noise to her internal chaos. Every sound was an echo of the silence Jack had left behind. Emma stood up, walking toward the window, her gaze fixed on the quiet street. She knew nothing would ever be the same. The distance wasn't just physical, hundreds of miles were already separating them. It was a gaping emotional chasm. Every secret in the diary, every line she had carefully concealed, had collectively created an invisible wall, shaking the very foundations of their trust. A sharp ache pierced her heart. She felt hollow, understanding that while she had finally found the courage to expose her hidden fears, the immediate consequence was this unbearable void. She sank onto the chair, tears blurring her vision as she clutched the journal to her chest. She remembered the words she had written, the fears, the moments of doubt about their future, the things she had never dared to share. Now, they were brutally exposed, ringing in her mind, and she felt the full, crushing weight of her omissions. She whispered to the empty room, her voice hoarse. I just wanted him to understand me. The silence answered her. She looked toward the counter, remembering the sudden, sharp ring of his cell phone that had shattered the tension, the call that had solidified his escape route. He hadn't chosen the partnership over her. He had chosen distance over their conflict. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall seemed unnaturally loud, marking the seconds of her new, isolated existence. Emma realized this wasn't just the day she revealed her secret, it was the day their relationship faced its genuine, existential test. Every passing moment reminded her that shattered trust couldn't be instantly repaired. It would require time, patience, and a true understanding of the person behind the pages. Emma sat there, her fingers tracing the cover of the journal, her mind racing. Would their love survive this test? Would Jack forgive her, or would the distance and the secrets ultimately tear them apart? London remained peaceful outside, but inside this small apartment, everything was in disarray. She sensed that, from this point forward, an unpredictable sequence of events was beginning to unfold, one that would force both of them to confront the true meaning of commitment. The London afternoon crawled by, the pale yellow sun barely piercing the window of the Greenwich apartment, but inside the room, the atmosphere was taut, stretched to its limit. Emma stood near the kitchen table, clutching the journal, her heart pounding against her ribs. Jack stood opposite her, his eyes wide, filled with a torrent of unanswered questions, his breath shallow, his body coiled as if ready to explode at any moment. Emma swallowed hard, her voice a thin, quivering sound. Jack, I just want you to understand me. But Jack took a step closer, his hands shaking, his voice low but charged with raw power. Emma, listen to me. I love you, but I can't live with these secrets anymore. Why didn't you tell me this before? The entire room dissolved into a heavy silence. Emma felt a chill race down her spine, her chest constricting. She backed away, tears streaming down. I was afraid of losing you, afraid you wouldn't understand. But Jack threw his hands up, his eyes a mixture of pain and righteous anger. Afraid. Emma, love isn't about fear. It has to be built on trust. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Their heartbeats seemed to roar in the quiet room, a frantic, suffocating rhythm of tension. Emma trembled, stammering, Can you forgive me? If only you understood. But Jack just stood there, a portrait of contradiction. He shook his head, his voice strained. I need time, Emma. Time to understand. To not lose everything. The afternoon breeze slipped through the window, the leaves outside rustling, a soft sound emphasizing the surging emotion within the room. Emma looked down, placing her hand on the journal, every line of script seeming to urge her, tell him everything, don't lose him. But she knew every word now had to be weighed. Every sentence carried the heavy power of a decision. Jack moved closer again, his eyes flashing with a mix of anger and profound disappointment. Emma, I don't know what to do. I love you, but I'm terrified of losing you permanently. The words rang out, full of desperation and pain. Emma shook, clutching the diary tightly. I don't want to lose you, but I couldn't hide it anymore. A moment of silence passed, both of them standing there, looking at each other, as if they were the only two people left in the world. Emma's heart felt frozen, overwhelmed by fear and a desperate craving for understanding. Jack stepped forward, reaching out a hand, softly touching hers. A moment that felt like it would bridge every gap. Yet the tension remained omnipresent. Emma looked up at Jack, her voice a fragile plea. Please, trust me, I love you, and everything I wrote is the truth. Jack took a deep breath, his eyes damp, his voice low but softened. I will try, Emma. I love you, but we have to go through this together. We need space to figure out what together means now. In that instant, the small apartment seemed to ignite with a confluence of emotions, tension, tenderness, pain, and hope. London outside remained calm, but inside the room, love and challenge intertwined, creating an emotional flashpoint where secrets, doubts and suppressed feelings were finally released, marking a crucial turning point in their relationship. Emma sighed, tears streaming down her face, but this time they were tears of hope that, after all the secrets and misunderstandings, they could still find their way back to each other. Jack squeezed her hand, his gaze gentle yet resolute. We will get through this, Emma, together. In that moment, the immediate tension subsided, but the air remained heavy with unspoken challenges. Both of them knew this was only the first step in a long journey, one where love, secrets, and true understanding would continue to be tested. But at least this time, they stood united, facing the truth head-on, and ready to deal with whatever consequences followed. The London sunset poured through the window of the small Greenwich apartment, bathing everything in a soft, gentle yellow hue. Emma leaned into Jack's shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart, a profound sense of peace spreading within her. This time, the calm wasn't just silence. It was a deep, shared understanding, forged in the crucible of the turmoil they had just navigated. Jack tightened his arm around her, his voice low but warm. Emma, we faced the fear together, the secret, and the doubt. I realized that love isn't just an emotion. It's patience, it's trust, and it's the courage to face the truth. Emma looked up at Jack, her eyes sparkling. I get it now. I also realized that sometimes we hold too much back, and those very secrets end up hurting us. But now, I won't let that happen again. We'll share everything, we'll trust together. Jack smiled, his gaze tender, and for the first time, the small Greenwich apartment was filled with a warm atmosphere, free of tension or heavy silence. They sat down together at the table, opening the journal, but this time not to hide anything, but to talk, to understand each other more deeply. Every line of script now served as an emotional bridge, helping them see the hidden corners, the fears, and the unspoken desires they had kept buried. In the days that followed, Emma and Jack slowly learned to live with the truth, learning how to give and receive trust and love more completely. Every morning, the sunlight filtering through the window, every shared cup of coffee, every gentle embrace, every quiet smile became a testament that love, when nurtured by understanding and honesty, could overcome any trial. Emma placed the journal back on the shelf, looking at Jack, her voice soft. We got through it, and we'll get through many more challenges, won't we? Jack pulled her close, his answer gentle yet firm. Yes, Emma, and this time, no secret will ever separate us again. We'll face everything together, and we'll grow together. The glow of the sunset covered the room, illuminating not just the space but their souls, a beacon of hope, belief, and enduring affection. Emma rested her head on Jack's shoulder, closing her eyes, feeling every heartbeat, every breath, every moment of peace, and realizing that sometimes the biggest challenge is the greatest opportunity for love to become deeper and more special than ever before. London stretched out outside, still bustling, but the small Greenwich apartment was now a world unto itself, a place where love was tested, strengthened, and ultimately reborn. Emma and Jack knew that from here on, difficulties would no longer be threats, but stepping stones that would bind them closer, help them understand each other better, and love each other more profoundly. And in the quiet of the peaceful evening, amidst their harmonized heartbeats and steady breathing, they knew one crucial thing: true love isn't always perfect, but it is stronger than any secret, any doubt, and any challenge, as long as they choose to walk forward together. Emma offered a small smile, looking at Jack. We'll write the next chapter of our story together, won't we? Jack squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with determination. We will, Emma. Together, no matter what tomorrow brings. And just like that, one chapter ended, but a new beginning was forged, one where love, trust, and understanding created a solid foundation, guiding them toward more peaceful and meaningful days ahead.